So I started off by making a general outline with little bumps, just a sketch to know where the actual paint's supposed to go. Now I'm going to use some watered out burnt umber to paint in the base of the tree trunk. So now I'm going to go in with this Jade Green with more water than color so that I have a base to work on. Just going to follow along that little sketch that I made as my outline. Light green mixed with yellow to make some highlights. I think it's good to just block them in right now, even though I'm gonna go over with more highlights later, just so that it creates that leaf effect. And I'm making sure to get out of like the bubble I created, the outline, so that it looks more like leaves. And I don't want to go too much on the bottom because there's going to be a lot of darks on the bottom since the light in this particular image that I am referencing is coming from the top. Now I'm mixing some Jade Green with some Prussian Blue so that I create the darker shade of leaves. I'm just stippling more on the bottom than the top because there is more darkness again on the bottom. But whatever reference image that you are referencing, you're going to want to see where the highlights are and where the shadows are and adjust accordingly. Honestly, this looks pretty good already, but I did get some water on my brush, and just with a little bit of water I started blending in the colors a little bit more and stippling a little bit more outside of the outline. You don't want to mix too much because you don't want your light green to disappear completely, but you want the dark colors to blend in a little bit more with them. I decided to mix light green, yellow, and white to create a little bit lighter highlights, and I'm mainly going to do this on the top, not really everywhere else, just the main points where I see that it's like really bright. With just water on my brush and started blending the light colors in a little bit more so that it looks a little bit more natural. So now I went in with this really thin brush and started to create branches using a dark brown. I wasn't really happy with the branches and honestly could have done without them. So if you liked the tree before the branches, I suggest keeping it like that. I started adding dark blue with Jade Green and some black, just so I can make a little bit more dark shadows around the branches so they didn't look so off. I then blended this in with just water on my brush, so it ended up looking pretty good. I think one of the most important things I've learned as an artist is to fix my mistakes instead of just throwing the whole piece away. I used some gray to add a little shadow underneath the tree just for some more dimension to the piece, and I really liked how this tree ended up turning out. I started the second tree by sketching out an outline, so I had some rough guidelines of how I wanted the tree to look. Then I started filling in the tree with some watered down burnt umber to again get sort of some guidelines and a base. However, when I was done with this piece, I think I could have gone a little bit lighter with the brown on the branches so that I didn't have to try so hard to hide the branches with the colors layered on top. So then I mixed some pale green with yellow and started on stipling some leaves. I didn't really have a guideline for this, so I just sort of felt around and used my reference photo. White spaces in between so that your background shows through. Like regular trees have some light coming through, it sort of creates that effect, and it's easier when you're layering on the other colors later. Using Prussian Blue and Jade Green, I created the shadows. I was mainly trying to hide the branches, which is why I went a little bit more on the top and really put the shadows everywhere. Since the dark green mixed so nicely with the green that I added first, I decided to add some more highlights since my reference photo had more sunlight on the tree. I also used this color to add a more full look to my tree by adding more stippling out of the base and blending in the colors a little bit more nicely. I then used a Prussian Blue mixed with Jade Green mixed with black to hide the branches a little bit more and add a little bit more shadows to the bottom of the tree. At this point, I was really happy with how the colors were complementing each other and mixing together so well. And the second tree is done. Starting off the third tree study, I think this is like a spruce tree, and I started off by sketching a rough outline just of the trunk. I didn't end up painting in the whole outline because I didn't want to have to try and cover the branch. I thought that I would go in and add little bits of the branch later on in the process. I used a pale green mixed with water to create this low opacity leaves. I was just creating sort of like a base and seeing where I wanted to put the leaves since some of them were facing downward. Using dark umber, I then started painting in little bits of the branches so that you could see it through the leaves. I think adding in little bits of the branches worked a little bit better than painting the whole branch, though I wasn't really that pleased with it. I then added some Prussian Blue mixed with some Jade Green to add the shadows. And I did this mainly on the bottom of the tree and near the trunk of the tree where the little pieces of dark umber were coming out. I don't know why this looks like a winter tree to me. Like if you added some white on top, it could probably be like some snow on the tree with this like dark color that I've added on the bottom. However, I didn't leave it like that. I ended up adding some pale green on top of the light green color that I have just to fill it in and to make the dark green stand out less. After I finished adding my color, I then proceeded to use water to sort of blend them together a little bit more. I then used pale green mixed with yellow mixed with white to create some more highlights towards the top of the tree. And our third tree is done. For the final tree study, I decided to sketch a little outline of the trunk, and I did use burnt umber to paint the full trunk in. I then used a pale green mixed with water to create little sets of leaves where there was like a break between the first set of leaves and the second set of leaves. Again, I didn't give myself an outline to where I wanted the leaves, so this was me creating sort of like a base for my leaves. Adding shadows, I used Jade Green, Prussian Blue, and Black, mainly at the bottom of the trees and between sets of leaves. Honestly, the tree looked really good like this, and by now I should know to just add the highlights. But of course I tried to do branches, which again I didn't really like. They didn't really show through much, and I think I could have definitely done a better job by painting those in before I did my base of green. Then went in with the pale green mixed with yellow mixed with white for the highlights. I did this mainly on the top of the leaf sets and a little bit on the bottom. Then, using just water on my brush, I went in and I blended the shadows with the highlights a little bit more. Now working on the trunk of my tree, I added more burnt umber to make it a little bit darker, and I continued doing this on all of the parts where I saw that the trunk stood out. After painting a little bit more branches in the tree, I then went in with just yellow, a little bit watered down yellow, and made some more highlights around the tree for the final additions. And that's it for the final tree. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below which tree is your favorite.